Tune in, tune in, tune in. This week in car audio. Tune in, tune in, tune in, tune in. We'll be talking about bass, talking about chips, talking about rings. You ain't got them, zip your lip. You got a problem you haven't found, check your grounds. The show about to start. Tune in, 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 tune in. This week in car audio. Yeah. Tune in. This week in car audio.
Welcome to This Week in Car Audio with your host, the Judge, Doug Stockton, co-host, the inevitable, the man, the movie star, Mr. Jeffrey Fernandez. What's going on, Jeff?
Nothing much. You just sounded like it was a part of that Avengers movie where Thanos was like, I forgot what he said, but he's like, I am this, and then Iron Man says, I'm Iron Man. Never mind, but I'm doing okay. How you doing, Doug?
I am doing good. Did you have a show this weekend?
Yes.
All right. Well, while you tell me about your show, I am going to start sharing this because I forgot to share last week.
Oh, bummer. Well, yeah, so it was originally a one-day show. But it lasted, wow, we ended up wrapping at like 1:30 a.m. So it was technically a 2-day show. Ended up being, but yeah, so it was our first of our summer series shows where we start later in the evening.
Okay.
4 p.m. But man, even then, the sun was just so hot.
Yeah, it was like 108 or something there.
It was like 110 plus on the heat index when you factor in humidity and all of that. So I actually was doing a live video, and I didn't. Side note, the live video ended up being like this 8-hour long live video.
I did see a little post that you said something about
that. That was kind of crazy. But so I was doing this live video, and then it was kind of just like nothing, but you just see the parking lot, and somebody had commented, "This is kind of boring." And I'm like, well, just waiting for people, to come up and wait for, the crowd to pick up, which they eventually did. But it was after the sun had set past the other building, and then it was just all shaded, and everybody just came up, and it just got really busy. And I was like, hey, where's that guy that was commenting on the show being a little boring? But it was at first, but it picked up. It was really cool. We had some guys actually drive up 3 hours north. They're from Houston.
Okay.
Perez Customs, Tony Perez. There's like Chris Perez. Yeah, they all came up. There's probably like 7 or 8 vehicles. They came up, did the event. They really loved the DB drag racing format. When I was down there in Houston for the Audio Olympics show back in November, they were there representing, and they were like, this whole time ever since then, yeah, we need to go up there to Dallas and do those events. And after the sun had,
somebody's got extra.
Sorry about that.
Oh,
earphones.
Had a second source on. Brandy Lee popping in. We got Tiffany up there. We got Rosa. Got Moses. We'll talk about them just a minute. Real quick, want to say thank you to our sponsors, Crossfire Car Audio, Puns Customs, and Voodoo Customs, our current sponsors of the podcast. So I always want to thank them. If you guys get a chance, check them out and get stuff from them if you can. Only a few would drag me onto social media. I guess he's talking about us. Oh, Joseph. He said, "What's up, Joe?" And so then he said, only a few would drag me onto social media. So Joe brought him out. So there you go, Joe. Yeah. So you had any world records or anything, potential records set at your event? Well, it was a 3X, right?
Yes. We had one. It was in the trunk class.
Okay.
And I think the record then was I think it was a 151. And one of the guys here, did a 151 and some change. But I mean, you know as well as I do, the world records aren't really locked until all the other locations have put in their
Right. So it's a
their
potential
results.
world record.
Potential world. Well, so the guy in Texas did a 151, and then we get word that a guy at Wyatt's 3X, and is it Wisconsin? I think it might have been Wisconsin. Did like a 156, and then we were just kind of all like discouraged, and we're like, oh, all right, So
Rosita
but,
says
it was close.
Rosita says Moses loves him some Joe.
I found Moses. He came to a Reno show. He kind of sat in the corner of the parking lot all by himself. Nobody was going over there and talking to him, and nobody knew who he was. I just went over there and started chopping it up. But yeah, I've become really good friends with Moses and Rosa.
Yeah, because that's Moses. He just sits around, doesn't do anything, just kind of hides in the corner, right? He doesn't stand out at any shows. So
he is very out of his character.
Yes, he is. So how's your finger doing today, Joseph?
It's all right. It's all right.
That's good. Just
pretty
bruised up.
It's pretty bruised up. I can see every rib from Josh Tattoo's belt, and I got a couple of cuts from the pulley of that first alternator.
Yep, I believe he. I believe he said. I think this is some of his skin. So
I think it actually helped. He did figure out that he was 5/8 off on his belt, so
the belt length. Yep, it was too long.
Got to the answer on that, and I just had to bleed a little to figure that out. But hey, Josh, thanks for not having a very tight belt, because it would have been worse.
Yeah, it could have been worse. Not saying that I haven't stuck my hand in an engine where it probably shouldn't have been. Because actually, to be truthful with you, when I saw you do that and I heard it, I thought you put your hand on, or you might have caught your hand on one of the impellers on the alternators, one of the fans.
Oh.
That's what it sounded like to me.
Oh, it actually had a sound?
Oh, it had a sound.
I didn't hear anything.
No,
except my scream.
Tristan out of Barbados saying, how's everybody doing? He had a big storm go by his house towards the middle of last week. It ended up downgrading before it got to them. But it was a pretty large storm that was heading to Barbados. So good to hear. Anyway, so Jeffrey, you used to be part. Oh, I had a show. Obviously, Joseph got his hand caught, but it is what it is. And we had it was a small show, but I didn't know if you were kind of busy, Joseph. But when it was all said and done, I believe I had 7 brand new competitors that never competed in DB Drag before. So we're expanding. Dave Bradshaw wasn't there. He's here in the chat, but he wasn't there. I just so you know, Dave, I dropped off some of those stickers with Chivo. Oh, Casey Custer popping in. He didn't show up to the bowling tournament yesterday either. Bastard. I was there.
Which Chivo did you drop him off with? Team DC Chivo or Team Send It?
At the end of the night, he was all Team Send It Chivo again. He was Team DC Chivo for the video and the pictures, and then he became Team Send It Chivo at the end.
Collecting them points.
That's what he's doing. He was at Clear Lake. That's where he was at. Clear Lake is a lake up there in Northern California. It's a big fishing lake. They have double-digit bass. 4 days of drinking and fishing. That's inappropriate, sir.
What?
Casey actually met Casey at Fisherman's Warehouse and at the bowling alley. So I was buying some gear, and there he was. And what do you know? Lewis TVC popping in. So Jeffrey wanted to get over. So you used to be part of Team XSSPL. Not that it ended. Josh Tay 2 popping in. You're still on my phone as Team XSSPL Jeffrey. So what are some of your memories, Jeff, of being part of Team XSSPL?
Man, long nights, building stuff. Man, you know, I I try to tell people, to always, especially if you're competing, surround yourself with people with like-minded goals as you.
Yep.
Because that'll really elevate, the level you're on. Um, there's stuff that you could always learn.
Yep.
That could definitely help your score. If not, then you got the camaraderie of other members, on the team. But for the most part, it's like, we all need
Yep.
a person or persons to say, hey, that kind of cheer us on. And
Yep.
I think being a part of a team really does that. So if you have a chance to be a part of a team, and then do so. There's a lot of really good advantages. But as far as like the memories, yeah, wow, just the long nights working on we're all working on our vehicles type thing.
But
We're
would you
just all
give
doing
any
the same
back?
thing.
That's the question.
Would I what?
Would you give any of those nights back to not be there?
No, no,
Absolutely not. That's
absolutely
one of
not.
the great things about being part of a team is, a great example of that is the Tennessee base racers, right? They're like-minded. They live and die to do base race and top dog. And so that group of guys have really fine-tuned their expertise almost in competing in top dog and base race.
Mhm.
So another team that's started growing a little over about 2 years ago now, I think, started out by Dave Bradshaw, is Team Send It. Now, Team Send It's always just been Northern California area, and Joseph here, he's out of Reno, Nevada, Northern Nevada area, and Joseph is now the president of a new chapter, Team Send It in Nevada. What's going on, Joseph?
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it, both Jeff, Doug. But yeah, exactly what Jeff was just saying. So I jumped into car audio. I'm pretty new to car audio. I think I've been in it now about 3 years. Jumped in pretty hard. I've done my build a bunch of times. I kind of have the same couple of people that I build with and I work with on my builds. And I'm part of Team DC. So I absolutely love Team DC. Great group of people,
Yep.
great products.
Great
Love every
support.
great support.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I always wanted to be part of a team that was actually gonna, get together and test and tune together and really work on the builds and find out where the needs are and help one another. And I always felt like that was missing, from what I was doing in car audio. Of course, I have my friends, that the small friends group that would do that sort of stuff, but at the same time, it's not super friendly to get into car audio competition as the new guy and to catch up and to figure it out. You can ask somebody like one of my new teammates, Rory Harms, who's really, he's went absolutely as deep as you can go in 6 months with car audio. And it's good to have that group of people. And I'll be flat out from day one. The first show that I went to was in Fresno, and it was actually Team Soundstream that really caught my eye. They were, I don't like Soundstream products, but the way that their teammates and the way that their team camaraderie was and the way that they supported one another, that was really something that was eye catching to me. That really caught my attention.
Mm-hmm.
So I've kind of been, I don't want to say solo. I've been on Team DC, and so if you need help with a product or you need to talk to some experts, you can get some great advice out of the team chat. But I still wanted more. I wanted that team camaraderie, and I'm for a couple of years now. I've been looking at which is not going to surprise Moses, but Space for Base. Had my eye on Space for Base, and I've had my eye on Team Send It. And I really liked what Team Send It was about, because when I first started going to those SAC shows, you'll remember, Doug, you'd yell out, Team Send It, assemble. And these guys would jump on that vehicle. Everybody would know exactly where they needed to push, where they needed to stand, where they didn't need to touch.
Uh-huh.
And I like that. I like the team camaraderie. It's a big thing. I love helping people in car audio. It's one of my favorite things to do. It's probably the thing I like just as much as building. And so you'll see me a lot on Facebook groups and answering questions and trying to help people and guide people. And so really the opportunity, I got to talking to Dave, and then Dave decided he was going to maybe try out some DC subs, and it seemed like a pretty good opportunity to mesh the two. And my cousin Daniel, who's my junior VP,
Okay.
he's a great addition to the group. He also wanted to be on a team, so we just said, well, let's do it. Of course, I stopped to talk to Rusty, made sure it wasn't gonna hurt any those relationships
No,
or any of.
and it doesn't with Rusty at all. I mean, Rusty wants you to be involved and engaged. Uh, if you aren't even part of Team DC, it doesn't matter to Rusty. I've known Rusty a long time, since way before he was doing this stuff, and he definitely wants to grow the community, and that's more important to him than you being on Team DC, in my opinion.
Well, I still am Team DC.
No. I'm just saying, if there was a choice, he would say, "Hey, man, if it's better and you want to grow the community and you had to leave us to be on that team," he would be super happy with that. Because I really do feel Rusty is one of those guys that wants to see the car audio market blossom, especially the competition side. He still has a heart for the competition.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he shows up to almost every show we do in Reno. If he doesn't have the bike thing going on, but yeah, he definitely has a heart for it, and he actually had his own team back in the day, Team Peer Pressure. And
did he?
Yeah,
I thought he must have been on another team too, WCA, right?
Well, WCA was Team Peer Pressure.
Oh, okay.
It was a kind of an amalgam of the two things. But yeah, that was really cool back then. And like I said, Rusty's a cool dude, so I'm sure he had no problems with you joining Team Send It. Like I said, we give Dave a hard time all the time about how many members he has, but he really truly wants to make it like a family event. I feel that in my bones. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I couldn't agree more with that. So I started talking to Dave, and I'll be honest, I've known Dave for 3 years, but I can't say that we've ever really talked, a whole lot other than what's up at a show, a quick little knock and move on.
Right.
It was actually interesting. So when I sat down and started talking to him about what I would like to do, and we started figuring out how this was going to work, he was pretty shocked at some of the stuff that I've built, some of the things that I've done out here that he just had no idea about, because, different circles. You guys are out there in Cal, we're out here. That was the one drawback for me that always kept Team Send It off my list was, going back to recruiting everybody days. When I first started, it seemed like everybody was Team Send It.
Right.
But that's changed a bit, and they've narrowed it down to just those that really compete. It's shrunk down a bit. Julio's doing a great job running it as president right now. I let Julio stay at my place when he came up for the Sky High Barbecue, and maybe it was Julio that sold me on Team Send It, because I tell you, the guy was not my teammate. He was just a guest at my house, but he was out there at 2:30 a.m. with me and Steve Wendell trying to shove this giant enclosure in this car that it did not fit into. And so a lot of love for Julio.
So I was on Team Soundwaves back in the day. I don't know if Jeffrey remembers it or not, but it was Miguel Ayala, me, Scott Sanborn, Chris Howard, So we were all the kind of Team Soundwaves, and we kind of went against Greg Colin, right? Because he's
really?
Team Audio Connection, right?
Audio
And they're in the
Connection,
same town. They weren't very far apart from each other. And I will tell you, Salinas from my house was an hour and 40 minutes. And I would drive out there on a Friday night and wouldn't come back home till Sunday morning. And it wasn't to build my car at all. My car sat at home. I only built my car at the shows. We've talked about this on this show many a time, but I was a poor planner when it came to competing, but my number would go up almost every time, and I would literally build a box in the parking lot, throw it in my car, and compete at the show. But I would spend literally, tens of hours helping Miguel try different subs, loading walled positions, whammy boards, port sizes. And I mean, I would be sitting in that, in that vehicle just doing so much stuff. And yeah, it was great times. And we literally would, everybody there would be doing something, and that's what a team does. And that's one of the great things about having a team, is like you said, and it becomes like a second family, right? So I still talk to all those guys to this day, and shoot, we haven't competed together since 2002, 2004 maybe. So it was before I became a 3X judge. So yeah, because I became a 3X and a 4X judge in 2005. So yeah, or 3X judge in 2005, 4X judge in 2007, and so that up until then, those guys haven't competed at least since 2005, and we still talk. So it's the relationships you create by being part of a team are way beyond just at the shows. As Jeffrey works for one of his teammates, so I mean, and how often do you guys still talk to Chad, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
I actually visited him at his place on my last SoCal trip. So
out there in the boonies.
Yeah, out there in the forest.
Yeah. So Dave Bradshaw says Team Unity. So how many members do you have now with the Reno branch, Joseph?
So we've got about 10 in the Reno branch.
Okay.
Many of them are brand new to the comp scene. A lot of them are faces you've seen around the comp scene. They showed up to shows, but they didn't really know how to get started or where to go. So I basically took all those kind of free agents that were in Reno and started talking to them. And what we've been doing is every couple of weeks we get together on a Saturday here. We do a little cookout. We bring whoever's builds that needs something done, and we just start working on it, start pounding it out together as a team. And I, like you, Doug, I'm totally capable of building my own ride. So we haven't put any work on my ride, when we get together, because I can get that done during the week. That time is really for them and to help them squeeze all they can out of it and soak up whatever information they can. And if you're Tom Selleck, you're rummaging through my garage for every piece of DC audio relic you can find. So we've got some great names that you've seen around the shows for a long time, but that'll be popping up even more, like Tom Selleck and Steve Wendell. And we've got some good people. Daniel Villa, who at the next show will have his voltage on where it needs to be and actually be able to really compete. So we've just got a good group of people who I trust. The whole reason we came out to SAC on Saturday was for that point. It was to take some of those people who go to the Reno shows and see that small turnout, but don't see what the shows look like when they're across the hill in Sacramento, Fresno, Bakersfield, SoCal versus NoCal or NorCal. But yeah, I just wanted them to see what one of these bigger shows look like. I picked the wrong show because it was super low turnout, and we were way early for it. And then I stuck my finger in an alternator, so none of it worked out as planned. But it was great to bring them, let them see the show, and even then they got to meet a lot of people, talk, engage. I think they got the bug a little more.
That's good. So what are your guys' requirements? That's great English, your guys' is. So what are your requirements for your team? So
the requirements are pretty general at this point. You got to have some interest in being on that comp side of things. You're of no use if you're, with the exception of Wendell, who we're going to call the public information officer. He just wants to help with builds and do his thing, but he doesn't really want to compete. So, we've got Steve, and we've got a handful of brand new competitors, a couple in the trunk class, a couple that are going to jump into the wall class. We're trying to divide things up based on class so we could put somebody in the lane in every event, in every type, without so much competing against each other. So just trying to break out those lines. So a little bit of everything. But hey, I'm going to go back to what Dave told me when we had this talk about how we were going to do this. And are you here to have fun? That's the question. If you're here to have fun, you're willing to support your teammates, I'll take a look at you and unless you got some serious personality issues, like people I will not say their names, I've pretty got a trial spot for you, and we'll see how it goes.
There you go. Jeffrey, when you guys were doing your team, did you guys class yourselves so that you wouldn't be going against each other and try to go for world? Because so when Jeffrey was competing, their team goal was a world championship and records. So that was because at then it was just DB drag. We didn't have Cyclone, did base race, and all these other things. So they were focused on their class and being a world champion. That was it. And they would take 6, 7 cars to world finals every year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So why don't you speak on how your team was kind of structured, Jeff?
I can recall there was a time, I guess this would be a good example. Myself and fellow teammate Darren Johnson, who shows up at events every here and there in the LA area, but he had a little orange Datsun that he was, I think, trying out Super Street 1 to 2, and I was doing Super Street 1 to 2 in the Rabbit, and Roger kind of was like, okay, we're gonna put this equipment in your car, and then we're gonna put this equipment in your car, and then whoever's loudest, okay, that's what class you're gonna be in, and the other person is gonna be in this other class. And fortunately for me, I mean, I ended up being a little bit louder in the Super Street 1 to 2 class, and Darren ended up going in the 3 to 4.
Okay.
Which is kind of how we handled that. But for the most part, I mean, it's we had guys that were doing the street class. There wasn't really so much as a requirement. But yeah, as long as you kind of wanted to be in there in the lanes, you're enthusiastic about it, and like Joseph here says, you didn't have any personality issues, then hey, it's all good. We could all kick it, But for the most part, that's kind of how we handle things. We had just all communicated, talked about it, and let things go how they were, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah, but for you guys, the intention was world finals, though. At a minimum for you guys, right?
I would think so. I remember when Roger first got us on. We brought it up here on SoundStream.
Oh yeah.
He was like, okay, I got this. It was a gentleman that was working for Crossfire. Juan Herrera ended up working for SoundStream, so we were able to acquire some product. And it was like, okay, well, we got this product. We don't have very much of it. Okay, who's going to finals? Who's going to do what? We can kind of help out that way. If not, we could still help out, but probably not as much. And we all knew that's kind of what the goal was just to go to finals, being able to go to finals, type thing. So there's that whole other level that, and when they start hanging around, do they just want to come just to, get product or,
right.
or, get the notoriety. And you kind of see that when they first come aboard, you're like, this, I don't know, think it's going to work out. But if you're, on that mindset of, hey, I'm going to finals, I'm going to win finals, I'm going to do my best, then, we just kind of hopefully gravitate around those people, and then, we lift them up, cheer them on.
So that brings me to the same thing. So Joseph, do you guys do pledges then? So you start as a pledge for a determined amount of time and then move from there?
No, I didn't put that in there.
Okay.
I didn't even consider that really. I'm a pretty blunt person. I think most people in this chat know me as pretty blunt. So, if there's a problem, I'm not going to have a problem sending you on your way. So no pledges. No, we are doing, and I've been floating that kind of by Dave and some other people, so doing some type of, not donations, but a membership fee. But really that's just to pump up the Reno shows, right? So
right.
We can upgrade those shows to draw more competitors, to bring people from across the hill. And that's what that's all about. And there's support for that across the team here in Nevada. So we're going to be doing, quite a bit, but we're still early on. I mean, I think we've been doing this a month. We've had 2 team meets and then our little field trip to SAC. So it's only been about a month. And but you know me, and I came out my first year. I had no idea talking to Angelo Trujillo at in Fresno. He was like, "You should come to DB Drag." I'm like, "What the hell's DB Drag?" And first time hopping in the lane trying to do what is it, base race, and I had no clue what I was doing. But that same year, I took home a ring. So I definitely go in deep when I go in, and I'm seeing these are the same kind of people, and so we're just going to do what we can do. Probably not a whole lot this season. We're going to build this season, but we're going to come out firing next week or next year.
Dave Bradshaw says our mission is to grow the community and vibe. People will grow into finals as the base bug kicks in. So that's what Dave says. We really need to show support this year for World Finals, being as we got a location back on the West Coast again. We want to show and represent so that we can continue to get these locations on the West Coast, right? So, excuse me. But yeah, no, that's so. So, what are your members? So you got you as the president, and then.
So we got me as president. We got Daniel as JVP.
Okay.
We've got Steve Wendell. He's our media guy. He's the one that's going to promote shows, try to recruit, do that sort of stuff, help with builds. And then we've got David Herrera, who has a trunk build that's pretty nasty. So next goal for him, we've already upgraded his amps out of just piles of stuff that were in my garage. And then his old amps kicked down to another member who's just getting built up. Trying to divide stuff. I'm a big proponent of. I learned a heavy lesson my first year going to finals, and you can do great all year with your burp class, and you go to World Finals, and then there's going to be a competitor that shows up from, in my case, Mexico, and I didn't even have him on my radar, and he just absolutely blew me out of the water with a 158, one note wonder, and so. I talk to them a lot about, hey, don't just shoot for the DBs. Like you can walk in this your first year and take home a ring and base race and top dog and any of those other classes. You don't always have to be the loudest. You just have to be really dialed in at what you're doing. Yep. And so that's just how I've been pushing it. I'm just not a huge fan of the burp builds. They're amazing, but it's just a lot of work to do that one thing.
Yeah, Josh says we're trying to have 4 competitors from Reno at World Finals. Nice. I was talking to him about that, and I think 6 would be a better number. And I don't think that's unrealistic. But, and then here's, if you can't read that, that says Joel. He's the Pankadow guy. Well, you can read it, Jeffrey, right?
No. It looks like Joe.
It looks like a Joe.
Yeah, it looks like a joke.
Yeah, Eric says you just have to be consistent.
Oh, yeah.
And that's all base race is. Base race, and as Joseph mentioned, first year competing, he won a ring in base race. Anybody can win in base race and top dog. And you can be World Finals competitive if you just take some time and figure out your system. I jump in cars and do the, beat the boss, and I go 9.9 most of the time, and it's a car I've never been in most of the time. Oh, I got to real quick. I got to tell Manny's here. Lord of Base Manny's in the house. Manny, my son says you're the only reason ever to go to a DB drag from now on. He loved that Mexican bread you brought him. So.
Well, you never bring me food.
Eric Hansen says he practices a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So there is one thing about practicing. I'm sure Joseph can attest to this, doing the base race and stuff. Josh says the boss got whooped this week.
What?
We tied twice, I think, and then he beat me. I fell asleep at the wheel. Only did a 9.8 the last run. He beat me. Anyway, the thing with the base race is practicing is one thing, but you got to go to shows and practice against somebody, because just practicing by yourself is not the same as competing at a show. When what's his name, Jimbo, came down from Canada, So now he's practicing against somebody, or he's going against somebody, and then me. So I'm a big mouth, and so I'm sitting there and I'm calling out the numbers, and because in my opinion, as we've discussed on the show, my opinion is my job is to let people be entertained and make it more exciting as I possibly can. And then, so different in the lanes against some really good competitors. That's the truth, especially down in Fresno. We got Carlos down to pound. That boy can base race. But the thing about it is there's different distractions when you're in the lane. You see both numbers going across. You're maybe not used to looking at a big screen. Maybe the sun is different. You know, the sun's shining on the screen a little bit, right? So
I'm going to interrupt you right there because I swear my first year, I felt like you purposely picked the worst possible position for those screens every time. It was like, how are we even supposed to see this?
So did I tell you the trick for seeing them during the day?
Oh, wait, no, but Lucky did. The glasses, polarized sunglasses.
Polarized sunglasses. And I'll tell you right now, when I was down in Mexico or in the Bahamas, $10 a pair. And I got a $250 pair, and I was going back and forth between them today. And the $250 pair fit so much nicer. But as far as the glare reduction and how well they worked, looking through them, exactly the same. So they are out there. And then Joel says he really enjoys Top Dog. It's thrilling, exciting, and challenging. Same thing as base race, right?
I'm going to disagree. I think Top Dog is super exciting, but it isn't base race. You know, there's that extra layer of rules and a little bit of chess theory in there. You know, you can do a lot, especially when you're in the lanes with your teammates and you know, you can dump your points or you can protect your points. There's I love Top Dog. And nothing makes me yell that F word louder than when I screw up in Top Dog. And I know you hear it at every show, but it's you know, it's absolutely exhilarating, and you never know where it's going to go.
Oh yeah, and you're always in it because you can tie somebody and take half their points and leapfrog all the way to the front.
Yep.
So we had I forgot who the last two people were this weekend, and I think Julio. It was Julio and somebody else, and one of them busted out. I think it was Julio said, "Hey, I got enough points. I'm gonna bust out and lose." No. But okay, so
can't think that way. You can't think that way.
I watched the video back, so I noticed Julio was starting his music before the meter started. There's a 1,000 point penalty if you start early. So if you go back and watch the video, so it was Josh and Julio. And I think Josh ended up winning. But Josh was down like 4,000 points. And Julio was started early, so negative 1,000. And then he red lighted, which cost him another 1,000. And he wasn't gaining points. And when it was all said and done, Josh gained like 6,000 points. And Julio lost 2,000. So when it was all said and done, Julio lost by 3,500, 4,000 points. So, and that's always a potential within that Top Dog. That's one of the cool things about Top Dog, and everybody's against everybody. You can you can alter your opponent's score if you're loud enough. You know. I like this new format. This is Mario. Says, I like this new format. My screen looks different. It's more colorful.
Yeah, I need more sponsor logos. So if y'all want to sponsor me, I'll post up logos everywhere. Until then, you get to see my fake house.
Josh T.W.I.C.A says Top Dog is a racket.
Oh yeah.
I think he means a riot.
It is. It absolutely is. So in 2021 in Nationals, I made it into Top Dog. I was doing okay. I think I was in third place in Top Dog. And I had a teammate that was in second place. And then we had Jimbo, who is an amazing competitor that was way the hell up there in first place. And, we just kind of made a look at each other in the lanes, me and my teammate, when it was our turn, and just kept tying, kept building up the points. And then I let him take half my points and let him grab that first place. And it dropped me out of third, but that's okay. Sometimes you got to take one for the team.
Yeah. And it's not, I'm not saying it's hard, but it's definitely not easy to continue to tie. Because when you got that 10-second reset, it drops the first 10 seconds off the meter. So if you were going up, it drops off a bunch of low scores, so your score wants to shoot up. So one of the tips I have for people in Top Dog is if you tie, turn your system down like 3 or 4 tenths, and then get it back up there so that you can, so that you don't bust out as you continue to have multiple ties. Josh T.W.I.C.A says he ran hard in Top Dog World and took third place. That would have been 2021. So, like I said, Top Dog's a great thing. I think anybody can be worldwide competitive in it. You just have to put in the time. And even when you put in the time, doesn't guarantee. There's still a slim factor of luck because you can be perfect 100 times in a row. But if your opponent's perfect 101 times, you lose. So, definitely a difficult thing. I talked to Wayne yesterday, and the multiple location thing's coming along really, really well. It's going a lot faster than he thought. So we may be able to see it sooner than later where we're doing multiple locations and doing the base race and Top Dog for cash. So
that would be really cool.
Yeah, it's fun when you win against several competitors in a row.
Oh yeah,
that's so true, Josh. And then you get scared. You get scared crapless when you get that other competitor in the lane that can drop those consistent scores, and it's like, wait a minute,
do I want to tie him and give half my points, or
right?
Just
what am I going to do
here? Yep. No, definitely.
I think at that point it's just like, dude, you have to worry about yourself and just get those 9.9s, and so it's like you guys tie, okay, you guys tie, just as long as you're focused on that 9.9. The Friday before the show that we had a practice session, and we had Eric Hansen. He's in the chat, right? Well,
he said he won.
Yeah, he was practicing, and I did a live video here when
it wasn't the 8-hour one.
No, it wasn't the 8-hour one. It seemed like it was an 8-hour one, but so I had this idea. I said, hey, let me try to contact Chris Gregory and see if him or his guys were doing practicing. I'm gonna go on live, and I'll add him onto my live, and we can kind of do like this pseudo world finals satellite heads up thing. But I think there was some miscommunication with Chris, but so I ended up practicing here with Eric, and fortunately for him, the next day after the event, he ended up taking first place in base race. But in Top Dog, he to be honest, he kind of stunk it up. I think he ended up losing 2 in a row like really quick. But and that's kind of how we're looking at Top Dog is essentially the base race redeemer. The guy who ended up getting knocked out early on, Alan Ray, he ended up doing base race. He ended up winning it all. So, he was still in it. That's why I kind of purposely hold off Top Dog till after base race, because of those guys that couldn't really, do well in base race for whatever reason, could, have a all
got
new
flustered or didn't have the song queued up properly. Mm-hmm. One of the best tips I got for somebody doing base race, if you use your phone, base race or Top Dog, you use your phone for the music, put it on airplane mode. Just saying.
Exactly.
Getting a call in the middle of a run sucks. Gary Killian popping in here where he goes, I'm not in jail this time. I can speak up. Thank y'all. He was in Facebook jail last week, so he couldn't respond on here. He says, thanks y'all so much for the kind words last show. He appreciates it. And then he says, I always go for 9.9. I'm not much of a poker player. He doesn't care about strategy. He just freaking, I'm getting 9.9. I'm getting 9.9. They got to beat me at a 9.9. That's the only way I'm going to let them beat me. And Josh says, it feels really good when you beat Chris TDC Jenner at Top Dog. Chris is one of my favorite competitors and teammates. Oh, and Chris is in there. He just pops in right now. Chris Jenner popped in. And he played this weekend, and he was not pleased with his performance.
Oh. Yeah, I remember that one year. Finally, he ended up winning, right, at Top Dog.
Yes, he did get a ring right there.
Yeah, solid competitor.
He goes, I'm so rusty. Probably the second run I've done since finals of 2021.
I'm right there with you, Chris. Like, I have not been doing shows. A lot of people know I built a pretty badass Durango, was going for Super Street X class, and at some point lost the engine shortly after finishing it. And so I kind of just backed away for like a year.
Yep. And then one other tip I got real quick too for people in base race and Top Dog. Since you're required to run boom check, so each boom check song has 2 frequencies that it peaks at. So use the one that the second peak is higher than your frequency, because if you play the song where it's that the peak note is your peak for your car, your score is going to jump every time it hits that one note. And so if you hit that, it's just going to dip down a little bit. It won't jump, because you can control a dip easier than you can control a jump, especially when you're at the 9.9. Chris Jenner
Maybe
says,
tip number 2 is check out one of Josh's bass knobs, because those things are surgical.
Pretty smooth. And then he was telling me something about he can set them up for you to so that it's actually pretty clear where to start, when to start, and so he's trying to make it more mechanical to help you out. I is the way I understand what he's doing with his knobs.
Yeah, so the screen, the LCD screen right there calculates everything kind of on the fly.
Yep.
So if you know where your numbers sit and where they need to be, you can dial it in. You know where you're at. It's not like a standard bass knob that just rolls and has a stop point and a start point. You can actually know right where you're at.
Yep. Chris Jenner says, I will say that advice did help. And then Dave Bradshaw says he just plays out of tuning completely to control it, which you can, right? Because you could be 119.9, you could be 129.9. So, yep, it's whatever. And Chris said it was definitely less jumpy when he played above his tuning. So.
So it's above or below?
No. You want to play that the peak note is above your tuning.
Okay.
Try that.
So it's
above. So what happens on your curve is it goes up like this. Your peak note is here, and that second note hits, and it's down here like 2 dB down versus the peak note, where instead of you're about here, and then that peak note hits, and you could be 3 to 5 dB jump, and then that's hard to control, that little jump, but it's easier to control a small dip, especially when you're playing right next to the 9.9. Eric said he played Boom Check 3, which is below his peak. That's kind of risky, but if you work on it, you can definitely make it work. And then Josh says, yeah, you the man, Joe. Thanks for the talking about his knob. I mean,
and the shameless plug with the link right there in the chat.
Nice.
Oh, yeah, there it is right there. BassKnobRecovery.com in there. More knob control. And that's the other thing, too, in Bass Race and Top Dog. I've done it with volume knobs and the push up and push down volume in cars, and I've been able to do it, but it's so much easier with a knob. I'm just saying. So that's what I would suggest, even if you get like an LC1, which are the cheap knobs, right? Isn't it LC1? Isn't that what they're called? Or Pack ones or something?
One or something, yeah. The pack bass knob.
Yeah. They're cheap knobs, and that's better than trying to use your volume control to do that. Joseph, anything that you want to plug about your team or talk about what you guys got going on and stuff, or what?
Yeah, so we've got new folks coming in down in Vegas. We're looking at a couple people down in Vegas jumping on as well, being part of that team. So expanding down south.
Okay.
Yeah, I think maybe I should leave it to Dave to announce, but there may be some other state chapters coming.
Okay.
If you're looking to be part of a team, trying to get into car audio, need some help, just hit me up. You can get me on Facebook. Pretty easy to reach, and always willing to help anybody with anything. My only rule is if I'm going to help you with your build, you're going to help with your build too.
Yes.
I'm making
Absolutely.
money at work. I don't need to charge for an install.
That reminds me, one of the guys at the bowling alley last night was asking about a home theater system. I have a box design here at my house that's specifically designed for home theater. Dude, 210s will rock the piss out of your house. So, and 210s, I got very specific 10s it's designed for. And they're made by Eminence, which if you guys don't build speakers, you probably don't know who Eminence is. Eminence is the world's largest U.S. manufacturer of subwoofers, but they typically do pro audio and home audio, and they do some car, but it's very low end on the car audio side. But yeah, a couple of their 10s, I think their 10s were like, I don't know, $60 a piece, and you put 80 to 100 watts to them, and they're going to shake stuff off your shelves with this little box design I got. So it's a folded horn. It's a ported horn design. It's really nice, especially when you have a big open space like a living room. So
it's really cool, all the cool stuff you can do with home audio that are such a struggle to do in car audio.
Oh, yeah, because you can control the environment in a home audio where you can't in car audio.
More challenging.
Yes. My buddy from high school who was on Team Orion back in the day is coming back. So Chris wanted to know how the finger was. The only reason he asked is because he was late.
I just peeled off the good stuff and kind of see it. It's on the backside. You still got little bruises from every one of the ribs of Josh's belt. It's got pretty good, but it's all right.
Ethan X Mendez says, just so everybody knows, Jeffrey's a ninja.
What?
Don't know where that came. Oh, yeah, and this is Josh talking about that he found out that his belt was loose by 5/8 of an inch. Jeffrey can do 3 backflips.
What?
That doesn't make you a ninja.
We're going to start calling Steve Wendell a ninja too then.
Not the trigger finger, says Dave Bradshaw. Is that on your right finger?
Yeah.
It is.
Oh, it is a trigger.
Which is really crazy because that same day I was actually scheduled for my CCW class.
Qualifying?
Yeah, Sunday right after the show, so needless to say I had to move it.
Especially if you have more than a couple of pounds of pull on that trigger. Could be. So in California, you have your CCW is tied to the serial number of the gun. And I believe in Nevada, it's just a handgun, right?
It's just you.
Yeah.
Once you're cleared, you can carry whatever piece you want.
Yeah.
But there's no reciprocity in California, so
there isn't any reciprocity.
No, you don't carry it. You don't carry it in Cali.
Oh, Pop Tart popping in. He's gonna see me in Iowa in 2 weeks. I need Tegan to send me the information. I want to put it online. We got a 3X coming up the 15th, but I can't put it online till Tegan sends me the information. I will call him tomorrow and get that up there so I can get that going. But yeah, Pop Tart, looking forward to seeing you in Sioux City, or is it Sioux City or Sioux Falls? One of those. It's back there in one of those countries you fly, one of those states you fly over when you're going somewhere real. No, they're having me come in and do a 3X event for them. So I'll be in Iowa on July 15th. The same day Jeffrey's having a 3X right there over his shoulder, as you can see. That one's at Crossfire. Mine's going to be in Iowa. And that same day, Josh T.W.I.C.A is going to be hosting his first ever 1X at in Reno. So I'm sure there's going to be a handful of people out there trying to help him, give him a hand, and make sure it goes smooth. But he's really wants to try this out and try and get that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Gary Killian, you are so not wrong. I actually bought my first gun at a yard sale in Nevada.
So
it was the 22 version of the AR-15, and taught my kids to shoot with it. But it was brand new in the box at a yard sale. I'm sure you can do the same thing in Kentucky.
Wow,
yeah, he says
cool.
you can buy guns at yard sales in Kentucky, no registration on anything. My son was asking me, because I watch T.W.I.C.A advocacy stuff. Just, I am that way. But my son was asking me if, what about any guns I've owned? I go, the government ain't known a single thing about any gun I've ever owned. So I was buying guns when I was 16 legally. I was buying, well, you can't buy them at 16 legally, but they were legal guns. They weren't hot, nothing like that. And, I would literally go over a friend's house. I'll give you $200 for that gun. And that's how I had guns, and walk out with the gun.
Wait, that was what? That was
Probably
in
might want to
California?
check statute of limitations for you announce that on live
Yeah, I think ATF is on the line here.
All the comments on this show are for entertainment purposes
Entertainment purposes only.
Yes. So that was in a different state than California, just so you know.
Okay.
It was in a different state than California. And then all my guns got stolen and sold to a pawn shop. So, and then I got married, and my wife's a non-gun person. So Dave says, careful.
I thought you lost them in a boating accident or something.
Well,
like
apparently,
that, right?
apparently, according to my wife, I need to just grab $1,000 and just throw it in the lake, because I keep buying fishing gear. And she goes, it'd just be so much easier if we just went out in the lake and just took $1,000 and threw it in there, and then you stop fishing. I said, but that's nowhere near as fun.
Sounds like my wife.
Dave says that's all white privilege.
Oh, no.
She tried very hard to get me out of car audio last year, and so all I did was go deep into RC cars and spent way more.
And that was way worse.
Yeah, it was way worse than audio, and now she's like, go back to audio.
Pick your poison.
So is the RC10 still a thing?
I don't know what the RC10 is.
Okay, so it's not a thing. So back in the days, back when I was 14, 15-ish, so 88, 87-ish, I used to, when the RC10 first came out, it was the first all-metal chassis, so it was aluminum chassis with gas shocks and ball bearings factory. Because before that, we all just had the Hornets, and then you would have to do whatever you're going to do to the Hornet, which I'm sure the Hornet's still out there, right? So that's your entry-level RC. Oh, he says, yes, RC10 is graphite, is what Jason says.
Yeah, there's a lot of carbon fiber parts now, a lot of really good stuff, ceramic bearings. I mean, it's a black hole for money.
It is.
Yeah, and I was doing more I tried a little bit of everything, and I landed on the RC drift stuff, but which is super fun, but super expensive.
Yeah, Jason says it's gold, and yes, it's graphite. And it might have been graphite then, but it was gold when it first came out, and that was the Woody McDonald says, I love the RC10. It was so fast. I mean, it was, compared to everything else that you buy stock, it was so fast. Dave Bradshaw says car audio costs more than meth, and you get to keep your teeth.
Not your hearing, but your teeth are good.
Jason Stave says he's got a few of those. So, but anyway, that's cool. So we're at the 1 hour mark right now. Anything else you want to plug, Joseph?
Yeah, definitely. So if you're not running DC Audio, you probably should. If you're not running one of Josh Type's Faith knobs, you probably should. And if you're not on Team Send It, probably should.
Okay. All right. Jeffrey, what you got?
So I got a triple coming up Saturday, July 15th. Crossfire Car Audio. It's going to start at 4 p.m. We're going to try to do something a little different because the last evening show, we kind of got out a little late. So I think we're going to try to mess around with the times and stuff like that.
Okay.
But also wanted to let you know, for the first time, we're going to have IASCA on board for kind of a dual org event coming up Saturday, July 15th. So come check it out. You guys know we always throw a really awesome show. Last Saturday, Roger was actually on the grill grilling up hot dogs and gave out free food and drinks for the competitors. So it's always a fun time. Come check it out. Check out dbdragracing.com for all the details. That's Saturday, July 15th, Grapevine, Texas.
All right. And for me, I just got off the phone with Moses. So him, Manny, and I think Team Down to Pound are going to team up to make my July 7th show at Jay's Alarms a 3X event with 3X trophies.
Wow.
He wants the big trophies down there. So he's going 3X. So I'm doing 3X down in Fresno. Then the next weekend I'm flying to Iowa doing a 3X. And then I'll be back the weekend after that, and I'm going to be up in Sacramento. And I have a sneaky suspicion that one may end up being a 3X also. So I have a few 3X shows coming up, and yeah, Josh says, thanks, good show, tons of respect to Joseph.
Thanks, Josh.
What's the date? So the date is currently July 7th. That's a Friday night. That's Fresno. And then the 15th plus 7 days. That is the 22nd, I believe. Let me check on my calendar real quick.
Hey Moses, put me down for two spots on your floor for July 7th.
Fresno?
Yep.
All right. He's actually got a spare bedroom at his house.
Perfect.
Yeah, I stayed there one time, but now I'm too good to stay there. I drive home. No.
I drive home from almost every show, so when I go to Fresno, whenever it ends, I drive home.
Let's see here. Sacramento is the 22nd. That is correct. So, yeah, so I'll be doing the 7th will be a 3X. The 15th will be a 3X in Iowa. And then the 22nd may end up being a 3X in Sacramento. And we're trying to figure that out. There's some people that really want to kind of sponsor that show, and that may be one of those 3X points, 2X cost, 1X trophies to help keep the cost down for everybody involved. 3X, obviously, more to participate, more to make the trophies and all that stuff. So, try and keep our cost down. That way we can keep the overall cost for you guys down. And, if somebody ever needs to and they're heading south or they're heading north, most likely I have a place for someone to crash if they literally right behind me here. I got my green screen right behind. This is actually in a spare bedroom. So I've offered it to Moses. He swears he's going to stay, but he never does. And then we're going to go fishing the next morning. But he's a loser, so he doesn't ever stay, and we go fishing the next day. Especially since the topwater bite's on for bass fishing right now. So,
Ooh.
Yeah, right before the show.
Fish. We might have to take you up on that.
So right before the show, I went out in my backyard. I went out in my backyard, 2 casts, caught a 2.5 pound largemouth on a popper.
So is the Delta right through your backyard, or is it the lake that used to be the Manteca water slides?
Manteca water slides. So the Delta though is literally at the end of my street.
Yeah, I used to fish at Mosdale. I grew up in Lathrop, California, so
So Mossdale's across the street. Turtle Beach is at the end of my street. So if you take my street and you go all the way to the end of it, that's Turtle Beach. So if you know where Mossdale is, then you obviously know where Turtle Beach is.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, All right, guys. Appreciate you guys coming in. If you get an opportunity, please support the sponsors who support our shows. We got Crossfire Car Audio, Puns Customs, Voodoo Customs. I haven't seen anything posted from Puns Customs in a while. I hope everything's going good. I know he was up and running after his fire.
Right.
So, you know, like I said, if you guys get the opportunity, please support the sponsors who support our show. Once again, Crossfire Car Audio, Puns Customs, and Voodoo Customs. All right, guys, we will see you guys next week at 5:30 p.m. California time, the only time that matters. We're out. Peace.